right. I think we're live.
Public service announcement. 56 plus 1 is live.
We are on We're on Candid Camera.
Thank you
Come on,
to the
Rob.
viewers that are
Play us some funky music.
taking your time out of your dinners with your families right now.
They ain't taking their time out. They're either on it or they're not.
No, they took their time out to come and view us.
People are taking time.
Yeah. I can't hear it.
You did want a Greek Freak beer. Man, I am so bald. Are you gonna like it? I hope so.
I didn't want to have
It's up to you.
I didn't want to have one, but I might have to. It is Nick's beer.
I guess I should have one with you guys. It's only fair.
All right, pour me one up, please.
Let me see if I even like
Can't be on live and tell them you don't like it.
You're gonna like that. Come on.
it. What it tastes like? Budweiser.
Hey,
Oh.
hey.
Tastes like a heavy bud.
Cold
Hey.
as ice. He didn't mean that, Nick.
He means it's a great Czechoslovakian Pilsner. Not a
He's
Budweiser.
got a Czechoslovakian Pilsner. The Greek Freak Czech.
It shows unity.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, you want this?
Go ahead.
Try it.
Pour it and Rob.
Are you not going to drink it?
Ooh. I like that.
Oh,
Like bull.
strong. Yeah, I'm not going to have. I'm going to drink. I'll get some water later. I'm good. Seriously.
What? Now you guys made.
Now that Rob's drinking by himself.
What the?
Pour that in Rob's cup.
Damn, dude, that's good.
It is good.
That's real good. Don't taste like no bud.
At first, that's the way it hit me. I haven't drank Bud. I mean, Bud's actually pretty strong.
Man, that's
Straight out
delicious.
the original Bud.
It's good stuff.
I can't drink.
What's the proof on that?
I don't think it's like 5. I don't know. It's on the can. I'm not sure.
5 points.
5.2. 5.2. 2.2.
Bud Light's 4.8.
4.2, I think.
2 inches shorter than James Madison. 5.2.
That's what you call it whenever you do it by that. You do it by the founder's names. 5.2. Why do you call it the Madison?
That's the youthful Madison.
5.2. It's the 4.7. It's Dolly. Well, Dolly was 5.7.
His
She used to throw them around, didn't
Yeah.
she?
Dolly was 5'7", but she could palm a medicine ball.
She was described as buxom.
She was built like a cable box.
Nice. Let's not be rude. All right. So I don't know. People are busy. We got one viewer. But basically tonight we decided to call a meeting with the team because Rich got a power shutoff notice from Eversource, and as you guys may or may not know, we've been not paying the public benefits portion of our electric bill in protest. Can you mute that? That is very. I'm so confused.
That's why I put on the other headphone. I'm like, maybe I'll drown it out. You can still hear it.
I feel like I'm singing the national anthem in a stadium and
Here.
I'm getting the reverb.
You want me to crank it up?
No comments.
So anyway, yeah. So we're gonna discuss this our next course of action because, as you guys know, the team and I have been talking about what we were gonna do if we got to this point, and we're at that point now.
Oh, that's coming from mine?
Yeah,
dude.
Oh, I thought it was coming from the box.
No.
Mute that.
Oh.
It's on your footer.
It's quick on the take.
Oh.
I'm like, see, you're messing with me. It's like I'm singing in the stadium.
No, I thought it was him.
Not me.
Then stop it. Is it you, Rob?
Well, I thought it was coming
It's
through
no,
the
no, no.
podcaster.
So yeah. So anyway, we started drafting a letter, and Eric is particularly good at citing legal references, and um, I don't know. I think law is kind of like your passion, right, Eric?
Well, I mean, to a lot of degrees, but specifically on defending myself in situations. But yeah, and or in situations where the mass population could benefit from it. But I also believe that our law is foundational to our freedom. So yeah, I guess you could say that.
Well, and I'll tie this back into why we started 56 plus one. We sat around and we were basically complaining about what's going on with our local climate. We've been complaining about government, taxes, policies, what have you. And we decided that instead of just being three guys bitching around a dartboard, let's do something about it. So that's where we began this journey of 56 plus one, learning about the founding fathers. Our ultimate goal is to get to the U.S. Constitution and talk about the laws and the articles and the amendments and what have you. But to get there, we're studying the founding fathers and what they were trying to accomplish. And here we are at a crossroads today with taxation without representation in modern day.
As well as moving the right of retribution through a court system or being fairly heard further away, just as we've talked about in the sense that British troops that were accused here in the colonies, the court case had to go all the way back to Britain in order to try anybody from the royal family or the royal guard or what have you. And what I'm comparing that to is how far away the Supreme Court is from the people today to be able to defend themselves against tyrannical measures, whether it be by a state government or local government or what have you. And we do see that on a reoccurring basis. More commonly, it hits the headlines in the sense of the Second Amendment, where we've seen that overturned in California, and multiple times they've made you go back to the court and back to the court. Here's where I think the people need to come into play and really start pushing back or specifically pushing for a resolution to this, and that is to create instead of the courts being so far away from the people and allowing a state or local government to pass a law onto the people that is very likely to be unconstitutional, that the law should have to go through the court first instead of us, because that's not our jobs, right? When you're talking to working class people that have responsibilities to put food on their table, they don't have time to do this. And meanwhile, our tax dollars are funding these same people that are putting these laws against us. Am I wrong in thinking about that?
I don't think you are at all.
I don't think so at all.
So what I'm saying is, until we, the people, stand up and start taking action and really start demanding these corrections be had, they're going to continue. And I do not think it's right where the Supreme Court is so far away from the people, which is the subject matter upon which you're about to speak on.
Yeah, well, exactly right. So, and to your point, we have these elected officials, and just like in history, most of these people come from a legislative background. In other words, they were lawyers, they went to law school, they have a college degree, and here they are elected as what we'll use the Connecticut Assembly as an example, because that's who we're going to be dealing with.
Largest gripe at this point.
These people are writing laws that, in my mind, and Eric's and Rob's, and I think probably
a vast majority.
I know of 63,000 other signatures on a petition that went to the state capitol feel the same way, that these laws are unconstitutional and these charges are unjust. So we have a decision to make here. We can idly stand by and continue paying the bill, which I guarantee you that 99% of the citizens in America that have an electric bill are paying these same charges, just not at the amount that we are here in Connecticut.
Yeah, right now.
Right now, because I've talked to people in New Hampshire, I've talked to people in Massachusetts. So I asked them.
And it was brought to our attention that it was more or less the lines of a blue state tax.
Right. And
But
well, yes and no.
not really a tax.
Not really.
But a blue state initiative that has been pretty much
seems
put forth.
to be yay or nay. I'm not really sure about that, but I can tell you the people I've talked to have this charge. So I don't, as New
The
Hampshire,
charge is so minute compared
Exactly
to what we're
right.
talking about.
Exactly right.
And that's how the government, has gotten away with it for so long. But this goes back to a principal point that's often made about keeping the door shut to government agencies, whether it's talking about the quote unquote common sense gun laws, which on its face, in some instances, I could say makes some sense. However, when I look at the reasons why the Constitution was put into effect, it makes no sense, because the Constitution is there to protect those rights, because those people that wrote it have already lived through the same stuff that is trying to be shoved on our backs. Whether it's the intolerable acts that we're talking about now, whether it's the disarming of the people like Great Britain tried, or it's making people go to across great oceans to be heard in a court of justice. It's the same thing, and we're repeating that point in history at multiple aspects here.
Right. And just like you said, you have legislatures that shouldn't be writing laws that are against the Constitution. These are supposed to be experts in their field. They're supposed to be state elected officials with, like I said, many of them have a background in law. How are they able to make these laws and us just sit by and
well, I think
have to listen to them?
Part of it is what I'm just exposing, right? Whereas years ago, when it was $5, or even up in New Hampshire where it's $4 on your bill, people were like, okay, whatever, it's $4.
Right.
But, it's $4 that they'd rather not pay, and it goes under the radar for so long. However, when you reach to the point or the crossroad that we have in Connecticut, it now went from $4 to $15 to $20 to now in the hundreds of dollars, or equating to 30% of our electric bills for a service that we get no benefit from.
I have my bill here. I'm actually going to go over it. And part of the reason that we're doing this live video is we wanted you guys to catch a glimpse into some of the things that we have going on in our personal lives, in addition to the educational podcasts that we've been putting out on Apple and Spotify with the Founding Fathers and the Constitution. But we're also taking a stand in our communities, and this is one of the things that we've been doing, and this is in direct protest. So I'm going to go over my personal electric bill with you people. So I have not been paying the public benefits portion line of my bill for, I think this is the 5th month now that I haven't been paying. So my bill for the month of January is $869.36. Now, I don't know about everybody else, but for me to pay $896 in a month for electricity is, I don't know what I would not pay in addition to paying this, because something's got to give.
It's like a food for
I think
a household of 8.
Right.
I had ours sitting on the counter. I think ours was $530, $560, somewhere in between there this month.
Okay.
But I did have the 12-month prior, and it was in the $320 range. So that just goes to show you. And I also looked at the combined public benefits charge, if I'm not mistaken, was 20 some odd dollars, and this month it was 120 or 130.
So that's what I'm going to get to here is my public benefits charge. Okay, so that's my total bill, because like I said, I've been short paying my bill, so there is some carry forward. So what I basically do is I've been looking at my bill, and it's broken out by kilowatt hour. So I look at the total charges for electricity. So it's broken out in supply. For this month, I'm $182.92. I'm okay with that. Yeah, it's a lot of money, but that's the electricity that I'm using. I get charged a transmission fee. This month, it was $57.73. Okay, I can look at the transmission fee and say, okay, that's how we get electricity to my house, so I'm okay with that. Local delivery. Fixed monthly charge, $23.75. Local delivery improvements, $29.10. Local delivery, $67.28. Revenue decoupling, $3.41. CTA, 66 cents, for a total of $124.20.
what does revenue decoupling mean? I mean, decouple means to separate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
separating your money from your wallet.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly what it
Okay,
means.
so the 3 charges. Yeah, I mean, there's already sauce built into the bill. We all know that. And part of the problem is I think there was laws passed in Connecticut where they had to actually break these out more specific, which is why I'm saying that if you have Eversource, you guys are getting these charges already as well. They're just not called public benefits where you live. But if you go line by line and you search on the great internet machine what each line is, you're paying for the exact same thing that we are, just at a lot less cost.
Well, I want to define what they're calling a benefit is as I just stated, our public benefit last year was in a $20.
Well, I didn't get to that. Mine right now this month, $151.11.
That's your combined public benefit charge?
That's my public benefit charge for this month. That's not any carryover. That's nothing. That's my public benefit charge for the month of December.
Mine
or January. Sorry.
Mine came out to $260.94 with my carryover charge being less than yours, but still not insignificant.
I'm going to see if my wife can text me.
$77 for
public benefit?
Supply.
Okay.
Transmission cost being $29.21. Local delivery $78.73. Public benefits $75.73.
So it's
29% by their breakout. Their breakout being the FMCC charge coming in at $41.15 and combined public benefits charge coming in at $34.58.
I got mine actually.
Bringing that total to $75.73.
It's robbery.
So doing a little bit more digging and information and stuff like that, these different statutes that were passed through the Connecticut General Assembly, we have them, that breaks out what the combined public benefits charge is, if you guys are so inclined to actually take a look at them.
It's the highest aspect of my bill now that I'm looking at it.
Really?
Oh, what?
Transmission $45.64, local delivery $117.58, and public benefits are $118.33.
It's okay.
And last year
we got a winner.
Now check this out. Last year my transmission charges were $46.41 compared to $45.64 over this year. My delivery charge was $89.67 over $117.58 this year, or under. And then my public benefits last year, same time, was $20.53, and this year it's $118.33. This is a charge that just pulled out of the ether. There's nobody doing any work for this.
And they can just increase it at the liberty of who? PURA, which is Public Utilities Regulatory Authority.
That's supposed to stand for the people.
So this is a board appointed by the governor of Connecticut, who my understanding was supposed to be a 5-person board. There's only 3 people on the board. You can't get in contact with them. There's no phone numbers to call them. There's no email addresses to write them a letter. And what we just found out is that there's one person on the committee who's been making all the decisions and signing on behalf of the chairperson.
It's Marissa Paslick-Gillette, I believe is her name. If I butchered that, I apologize. I actually really don't. But yeah, chairman of Connecticut's Public Utilities Regulation, a lawyer from, I believe, Maryland.
So this woman is single-handedly deciding to increase our public benefit charge by what's that increase?
That's 5x, dude. That's or 6x. Like I said, 2053 last year to 118.33 this year. That's 6 times, 5.5. All right, we'll split the difference.
So the people that don't have the public benefits line on your bill, take a look at your bill and see what those charges are, because if the state of Connecticut says that they can do those increases and Eversource agrees to do that, that tells me they can do that anywhere in the U.S.
Anytime they want. Without being cuffed or restrained. And that is the problem in itself. You know, I want to, and here's what I want to point back to what, I think it was Madison that said it. Give me a second here. He goes, if we advert to the nature of Republican government, we shall find that the censorial power is in the people over the government, not in the government over the people. Now, that is the father of the Constitution who stated that. Now, it's further supported in Article 4, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution, and it can be backed up in its own self-evident way as Article 6, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution under the Supremacy Clause. So, here we are. Now, they call it a benefit, but, people with solar aren't getting the same benefit. They're not paying into it. So it's not even a benefit. We're being penalized. That's what it should be called.
Yeah.
And that's how they started this whole ordeal with going green, is it would be better for everybody. We'd be able to reduce energy costs. We're not. We're clearly not.
That's it.
Well, to go back to the solar industry, again, some people can't even get it. They're in geographical depressions. They have shading. They have all these other constraints that lead them to not be able to assume those so-called benefits, right?
So what does that mean? They're not part of the public?
That means
that means their exclusion. It's
a discriminatory.
discrimination.
Which now makes it a First Amendment violation for a compulsory fee in Genesis versus the AFSCME. That's a comparison there. There's also another case out there representing the same thing. And as we know, we have recently found a lawyer who's taken this on, and when the case was first presented to him as a First Amendment argument, he pushed back on it. Right. However, after the weekend, he's like, you guys are right. So that's kind of funny that people aren't looking at it from the same perspective.
Well, and that's where I appreciate you, Eric, because you do know the law, and when you research something, you research it thoroughly. So for you to go to this lawyer, and I know you did a lot of legwork with this guy, for you to have the conversation and put together a proposal on what we're trying to do, and his initial response is no, but then after he thinks about it for a couple of days, he's like, you know what, I think you're right.
Well, a little bit of arm twisting.
I mean, that's impressive.
He also cited the 14th Amendment, where it's beyond a due process clause, is where he's saying. He's like, look, there's 3 constitutional aspects we can approach this from. He's like, I think the First Amendment is the strongest, but I'd like to back it up with the 14th. And then something else was the something taking clause, which I'm not familiar with, but he wanted to put those in there. Anyways, this guy wants to build a case.
And he should.
Couple things here. We have some participation. I think if you've seen on Facebook.
A couple comments you want to address.
Bill Wright, he's looking for high-speed delivery lines.
He said the charge. The charge is for high-speed delivery.
John Giantoni says hello. And Sarah Boughton, she says she joined late and was looking for her electric bill. And she's asking, is there a specific category we are comparing? I'm curious how Florida looks in this. So, it's called some sort of benefit charge, Sarah.
It's going to be wrapped up with a bow on it that sounds like it's going to be beneficial for everybody.
I personally would find it hard to believe that Florida does have that. Can we do some searching on that?
I left my computer at home.
Second. I'll see right now.
I'm trying to do this all over a phone.
Well, only because I know where DeSantis is very strong on his energy management and energy expenses. He's kind of spearheading a lot of this energy reduction expense measures. That would be FLP, Florida Light and Power.
Brian says it benefits them, not us. Absolutely. We know that. That's why we're taking this argument. Utility.
So it says right here, does not have a benefit charge. Florida does not have a benefit charge, but receiving public benefits may affect immigration status. The public charge rule considers factors such as use of public benefits and eligibility for specific programs. I don't know if that's the same applicable as Florida power companies. But, that's what we're running into here because Connecticut is a sanctuary state.
Yeah.
And
We could go down that rabbit hole as well.
and you're right. And a lot of people do not understand that when you take on an illegal immigrant into the state as a sanctuary state, you're accepting a financial burden. They don't provide back to the economy. They can't. They don't have licenses. They can't get licenses. They are a financial expenditure put onto the backs of the people that are providing the tax value to the state. It's not mean what I'm saying. It's not harsh. It's not rude. It's not inconsiderate. It is fact. And you can't keep bearing down on the tax-paying base, demanding that they give more while everybody else gives less. That is a fundamental issue, and it works towards socialist values, and that's not what we are as a nation. Anyway, so FLP, Florida power companies have certain charges, including a service charge for opening or transferring an account. FPL budget billing uses up to 12 months of energy usage history to determine the rolling average. No, they do not have it.
So she says they have Duke Energy. So I'm going to see what the.
I'm looking.
Duke.
Yeah,
Duke
new
Energy
rates
customer.
and charges are effective for customers of Duke Energy,
Oh, okay.
Duke Energy Florida, FPL, and Tampa Electric Company. So no, they do not have it based on everything that I just tried.
All right. So back to Rob's
Yeah.
point. Maybe it is a blue state, red state thing. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I know we're up here in New England where we are. Connecticut is without a doubt a blue state. Massachusetts is a blue state.
Well, from what we're seeing, the commonality is more the green initiative.
Yeah,
That's
people
being the largest push that they have out there.
and people have the charges. I mean, I know for a fact that other states besides Connecticut are being charged for these public benefits, as they call them here.
Right, but I think we're well beyond the green or the clean energy aspect of this. I mean, we just seen it in our bills.
Yeah.
6x factor is applied to from year over year in a benefit charge that's not benefiting us.
And I honestly, if it was $6, Eric, we wouldn't be having this conversation because I would probably be like 333 million other people and say, you know what,
Right.
$6 towards green energy, if it makes people feel good,
Right.
that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't care. But when it's $150 on my fucking bill, I want it gone. Yeah.
I don't disagree. And when there's no handcuffs on them, that they can just
Sorry.
jack this up whenever they want.
Right.
Yeah.
And now I get a text message that my power is going to be cut off, which
On the basis of what? You're not getting any benefit, which I
Right.
find funny.
so we're
So
gonna
while
cut
your power is cut off, are they going to be charging you for a benefit?
Well,
What are they going to do? Make up a kilowatt hour usage to
well,
base it on?
no. Actually, you're now doing better than any solar array out there as far as production of carbon footprint because you're eliminating it. They should give you a rebate worth
Right.
the combined public benefit charge
I should.
because
should.
you've just dropped your carbon emissions down to zero.
Zero. Except when I fire up that generator burning 87 octane 24 hours a day. Whatever, my neighbors are going to hate me.
And we'll soundproof it.
But that's the way it's going to roll because we don't have a Declaration of Independence to sign today, but there is a hill that we need to stand on, and this is the one we're standing on today.
Going back to this Pura aspect, there's no accountability even within them. And with this attorney, like I said, at first he took the position of not sure I can go at this with a First Amendment. It might be frivolous, and I'm not going to take a frivolous case. I'm not even going to try. Okay, I get that. But when he comes back and he says, well, he has friends over at Pura, whatever that means, and he said, I couldn't get a straight answer out of any of them.
Yeah, it was
He's
like
nobody knew what was going on.
we researched this and dug in pretty deep, and it leads into one agency, into another sector, into here. It's just a spider's web of confusion.
Well, yeah, to me, it's a spider web that ends in a black hole.
Utilities
Sucking in all the knowledge and nobody knows anything.
Yeah, utilities don't like Pura. Pura doesn't like utilities. Customers don't like utilities or Pure. You know,
Well, let's get Pura. Why won't they entertain jumping in on a phone call with us? Right? If they want to call us simpletons
well,
or whatever it
transparency
is,
is probably not in their best interest, right?
Yeah.
but transparency is required.
I got that law. Did you read that lawsuit or that thing that I sent you earlier?
No,
Or
I
no,
haven't,
yeah.
I didn't have time.
We'll have to go through that another time and read it.
But go ahead. Well, what was the subject matter?
The subject matter was a lawsuit was brought to them actually even denying the existence of Pura because they didn't have all the paperwork and other stuff that they needed upon request from this law firm, and they were actually denying their existence through the Freedom of Information Act.
Who was denying their existence?
The
Law firm?
The law firm, yes.
Okay.
The representative.
All right, so they're obviously on to something.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the word standing, and when you take up a case, you have to be, number one, the right person to bring the case, or people, or company, or entity. If you are not, then your case will get thrown out, and that's what it sounds like this firm did. Is they're like, we don't have to recognize Pura. There is no established documentation or anything that substantiates their existence on any legal format. Now, I find that interesting. Now I am going to read that article.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to use that article when it comes time to the utility argument for my delinquency in bills, and I would implement that article into your legal response as well.
I would almost like let's start here. Let's just prove that you're an entity that's even capable for violating our First and 14th Amendment rights. Let's start off there.
What do you mean?
As far as them providing the necessary paperwork and the documents that's requested by this law firm for them proving their existence, Pura's existence, and the right that they have.
What? You totally lost me.
I went over you.
Yeah.
It was in our.
Is that a question for me?
No. It wasn't a question.
No,
Maybe I'm just looking at you.
More of a rhetorical. He was saying, well, let's start there for a proposition because this article that he sent me, I hadn't had time to look at it yet.
I haven't seen it either. Sorry.
There was a law firm that was Pura suing them, or are they suing Pura?
They were going after Pura.
Okay,
directly.
For obviously taking money. Now, here's another funny thing with the utilities. Utilities, they're not as big as they say they are. Now, and I'll give you a great example, and I was part of this, and you can look this case up. It was a company out in Plainfield. I think Plainfield or Danielson, somewhere out in that area. I told the guy, I'm like, listen, this thing, you're already paying for it. I'm just going to give you new light bulbs. They're going to save you 50%. There's no money out of pocket. And he's like, no money out of pocket. I said, no. And he was standing there with his attorney, whom of which I didn't know was his attorney at the time, and nor did I care. You know, look, this was the common nomenclature and vernacular that was being used to represent this program. So he gets, I think it was $170,000 lighting project installed through the combined public benefits charge. Then when he gets his bill, he argues it. Utility and him go back and forth. The utility ends up losing. He takes the utility to court and saying that, look, I was told this is no out-of-pocket expense, which it's not an out-of-pocket expense. If you're looking at it from the perspective that you didn't have to pull out any dollars out of your pocket to pay for it. But in reality,
they just padded into your bill, right?
Correct.
Is what you're talking about.
Correct.
Yeah.
So this case has already technically been won if we can cite that back to this avenue as well.
Yeah, that's where I thought you were.
There's got to be grounds for it. Yeah. When he called me, he's like, guess what? I didn't pay anything for that. I'm like, I told you. He's like, no, I didn't pay anything. I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's like, I'm suing the bastards.
Wow.
This is back when it was CLMP, by the way. I'll have to find that article. And, but yeah, so, you know, the utility, these bigger companies, let's use Mike Tyson, right? He becomes a target for inviting someone up to his room to play checkers, and then anybody can say whatever they want, and you become a target because you're so big. That's the power companies of Mike Tyson. The state of Connecticut's going to be a little bit different because there's they have the ability to get wormy around it and they can stall things. But if enough people in the court of public opinion support this, there's going to be no hiding for them.
Yeah, and
The largest thing is the exposure, really putting it out there and getting it out.
Right.
That's the real key element to this is getting. So not only can they do this to you in your electric bill, but where else is it taking place?
Yeah, and then
that you might not have any idea.
At what point do people start standing up? Because the Boston Tea Party didn't start from something that happened yesterday. It was years and years leading up to it.
5-6 years, right?
Right, and that was just in the 1700s. You talk about the colonies from the start, from the 1600s. This problem has been going on since people inhabited this continent. So, I don't know. It's just frustrating because in today's day and age, you've got, people do provide for themselves. They have decent jobs. They make good money. People can afford a lot of these things that, okay, maybe it's $5 here, $10 there. It's not a big deal. But at the end of the day, it is a big deal because
it's wrong.
Here we are. It
wrong.
is. It's a big deal because it's wrong on principle. Right?
Is stealing a penny from everybody's account across the country okay because it's only a penny?
Exactly right.
No.
Right. So, these people, I see some of the people on the Facebook page complaining, and all they're doing is complaining. They don't have a solution. They don't have any ideas. They have no constructive feedback. They have no input. All they do is just complain. And they're the same ones who say, well, it's just $10 or it's just going to end in 2 months. That's what the leaders of the state told us. It's just going to end. So what's the big deal?
Yeah.
Well, the big deal is they just stole $700, $800, $900 from you over the last 6 months. That's the big deal. If you can afford that, then fine, get off the page. But if you're like me and you can't afford it and you're going to be without electricity in probably a week, then I need to do something. And that's why we're here.
Correct.
Shit, dude, I think this went back even, Eric, when I was talking to you on the phone. I first got the email from Eversource saying that this was going to happen, I think July or August or something like that. And I think I called you up and I said, hey, did you see this email that came from Eversource? It was saying if you consume 750 kWh per month, you're going to see an increase in your electric bill of roughly $10, and it's going to go to this. And I was like, all right, well, that's okay.
Yeah.
What about those that consume far less than 750 kWh?
Yeah.
It hit them even harder.
Right.
That was just the average that they were using. So somebody like myself that doesn't really consume a lot of electricity, it hit us even worse. And I think I told you, I said, yeah, it's going to go on for about 10 months. They're trying to recoup coffers, monies for these coffers that they have. And that really it aggravated me because I tried to forecast at what it was going to cost. And I came up with roughly $550 to $600. And I said, we're getting whacked with another tax for 10 months. This is what it's going to be. And this is what I'm trying to forecast in my head. And right now it's on pace for that.
Right. And just because you forecast it doesn't mean it's easier on you.
No.
Right? You just knew it was coming.
Yeah,
right.
We just knew it was coming. But now it's for what? Okay, so it's 10 months, it's this. But there was no, it wasn't defined saying, all right, this is going to end here and that's it. And it's not. When is enough? When are you going to put your foot down?
Yeah.
When are you just, and this is kind of, where it all stemmed from.
Really. We're here.
Yeah.
We're here today. That was it.
That started from me reading an email bitching and complaining to him. And then a couple months later, it obviously, once it hit our bills, we all frickin' went mental case. And so, to where we sit now.
To what I think your point you were alluding to, you didn't get there yet, was you're always going to have people that complain and do nothing. And we're taking an action. And it's not just this. It was not hard. I mean, not easy to find an attorney I was shopping this thing out for a couple weeks and I wasn't getting any bites back. And finally I handed it off to a friend of mine. I'm like, listen, do you got any lawyers or judges in your Rolodex? And he goes, I do. And I'm like, I'm going to send you something. Can you just have them review this and tell me what the thoughts are? And he did. And it happened to be a former judge. And the judge found it funny that according to Larry, he goes, I never thought of it this way. Now that's a judge. He goes, but it's a solid argument. And it's kind of the same thing we ran in with the attorney after he after he said, yeah, no go. And then over the weekend, he changes his mind. He's like, now I understand what you're saying.
Well, and we've talked about this before as well. It goes back to the same reason why people like you and me take plea deals. Okay, we don't know the law. We know what we're faced against. We're given this opportunity. We take it because it's the lesser of two evils, even though we know that we're maybe not guilty or whatever the case may be. I think the same goes for these lawyers. They're so used to trying these cases where they come to an agreement behind closed doors between attorneys, and they just go through the motions and they play the game of the court. And I don't think, I'm sure there is cases, but I don't think in all cases they really have to dig into the books and get back to the root of the law and go back to the Constitution. It's just that they're the ones guiding these people through the court system and following court procedure. And that's where my heartache is.
I think they use fear tactics to keep it that way too.
I'm sure they do.
Even in my medical issue case, my attorney's like, yeah, but you can't go there. I'm like, why not? This is what the law says. All I'm doing is following the law. And after a while, they're like, well, yeah, that's what it says. But their first reaction is, I don't want to fight. I want to find a way that we can wiggle out of this and everybody gets happy. But
right.
not everybody was going to be happy. What they meant by everybody being happy is they meant everybody on their side being happy.
Yeah, everybody but you.
Right.
They can get their money quick, down dirty, easy cash. They're in, they're out, they're on to the next case.
Business as usual.
They don't want to have to go to the freaking state library and dig in the state law books and look at the legislation and see other cases and do all the research. I mean, let's face it, when you can collect $500 in an hour versus $1,000 in 8 hours,
right.
what are you going to do? You're going to take the easy money.
Right.
So, and I think that's what we're up against as well. And when you read the law and you can put the law in front of somebody who may not have been as familiar with that law in quite some time because, when did they take the bar exam? How long have they been, whatever the case may be, for you to throw that in front of them and for them to come back and look at it and say, oh, I see that. And that's a good thing for us. And that's
right
where we stand with this lawyer.
And so I put lawyers, I don't put them in any special box any different than any other trade. Right. If you haven't worked on, for instance, when you went to A&P school, you learned about rotor heads.
Right.
I'm sure you've forgotten a good portion of it. Now, it wouldn't take you long to figure the things back out, or even wings, a fabric wing.
Right, yeah.
Right. So, did I ever work on a fabric wing? Did you ever work on a fabric? No. So, but it's like that. So just because it's an attorney, it doesn't mean that they're familiar with that section of law. So think of it as a compartmentalized type of aspect.
They're specialized in their whatever it may be.
Right, which is why my personal attorney, he was like, look, Eric, I'm not a class action guy. I'm not a civil guy. He's like, it sounds good to me. And after talking to you, I believe what you're saying. But he's like, I couldn't tell you either way. Number one, he's in New Jersey. And I'm like, Paul, Jersey and Connecticut still both fall under the same Constitution.
Right.
So, and that conversation even occurred with this attorney. He's like, well, in Connecticut's Constitution, there's nothing that defines this. I said, it doesn't need to be. Article 6, Section 2. The federal Constitution defines it. And that is the supreme law. So he goes, well, yeah, I guess you're right. So right. I'm like, to me, the supreme law should never be out of your mind. That should always be the fundamental at the front of your mind. I don't care what your legal argument is, whether it's a stolen vehicle, stolen property, what have you. All of that stuff applies.
It's like the go-to playbook, right?
Right. It's rudimentary.
Right. Yeah. Back to the basics.
Right.
Yeah. It's the tool pouch. Holds everything that you need.
I think, I don't know, unless you guys want to stay on live for any reason, I think we kind of got our point across. Our next step was I think we're going to go through this letter draft my response to Eversource at this point.
Now, do you care to share that on the page?
I don't mind sharing it. I was thinking that we could just go through the exercise of the editing and getting that together, and then maybe coming back on and doing another quick video with the final draft.
And before we do that, though, this is a conversation I've had a couple times. This goes back to the adage of people bitch, 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 and they bitch on Facebook, but they won't actually take the minute to look up their congressman or their senator's address and email them. I understand it to a very small degree that they're probably thinking, well, it ain't going to matter. I'm just one person. But I don't understand it from that is the process, right? You got to contact your senators. You got to contact your governors. And I get it. You are a working class person where you have a multitude of tasks to take care of. But what you also need to understand is depending on the state and or the district, for every phone call that they get on that complaint or every letter, email, what have you that they get on that complaint counts as X number of 100, maybe even 1,000, up to 5,000 individuals, because they know that not everybody's going to be contacting them. And that's why a lot of these political advocacy groups get away with so much, because they're going out and they're in tune or in touch with certain groups of people, and they get them to sign a small petition, and that petition is they can go back to their congressman and say, look, we got 500 people that signed this, or 100, and now that now equals 10,000 in his district. You see what I'm saying?
Carries a lot more weight.
The multiplied factor. And that's how they tabulate it. But that's the system. And whether I agree with it or I disagree with it is really irrelevant. But we, the people, in my mind, have to partake in participating in the system and how it works. I'll give you another example. So I understood this a couple of years back, and I would write up like letters, basically fill in your name, fill in your address, and here's the email, and here's the so-and-so to your congressman or your senator. Send it to them if you disagree with it. And I'm not just making up random things that only I was complaining about. I'd see this on whether it be Facebook or some other social media thing. The problem was I would ask people, I'm like, did you send it? No. I'm like, all you had to do was email it.
Right.
I wrote it for you.
Did all the legwork.
Did you disagree with it? Well, no. Okay, well, then why didn't you send it?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't have time. You didn't have time to click a couple buttons, but you have time to go onto Facebook and click 100 buttons about how you're pissed off.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Well, and just like Brian just comments, he says, I've been emailing anybody I can get their email online about, and not one response.
With regards to what, Brian?
I'm sure, I would assume he's talking about the public benefit, but.
I want to see what he's.
Sarah says, Eversource has also had several lawsuits on their own infrastructure.
Yeah, or the non-maintenance thereof.
Well, who is the lawsuits? Who were they brought by? And was it like what does that mean? Is that a state lawsuit that's holding their foot on Eversource? I don't know. But to Brian, so if you are a part of this, Brian, I'm going to give you I'll give you a first peek at what we're doing. It's a website that I started putting up for our legal battle here, but I'll help the people. I'll share it with the people that are part of this podcast. So it's a www.com, but it's bancbp.com.
PBC.
Public benefits charge.
Correct.
Yes.
banpbc.com.
So, yeah, ban public benefits charge. So, banpbc.com. It is a draft. I just worked on it today. I spent 3.5-4 hours on GoDaddy and realizing I could get nowhere with those people. And so I had to restart it before I came here. But it gives you a perspective and the angle that we're taking on to go after the state, Eversource, Pura, and or all three. So, but that is the avenue we're taking. And for the same reason that Rich brought up, right? We're not just going to bitch about it. Also, check out the Facebook thing. What is that? Ban combined public benefits charge?
I'll give you that one here in a second here.
So the thing about having my phone as the camera, I don't have it at my fingertips to look this stuff up. I feel helpless.
The Facebook page is Ban Public Benefits Charge Eversource /UICT. We got a lot of engagement there. There's 20,000 participants in there. If you really want to see the frustrations and anger amongst the public, I'd encourage you to go check out that Facebook group. Obviously, we spoke with the creator, and it was very, I guess, proactive and
he took
letting the people voice.
He took the initiative, and
Yeah.
and we kind of said, all right, here's somebody that's doing something. Does this incorporate the lawsuit from the Mass Attorney General office? I'm not sure what that's in reference to, Sarah. But don't share this link just yet. I just started working on it today, and it's frustrating because I'm working from a domain or a software platform that I'm not familiar with. It will be live, and I would say by the end of the weekend, if not over the weekend. So, Rich, do you know Brian Grom?
Nope. Just through our interaction here on the website.
Okay. So, Brian, how did you hear about us?
I think it might have been through Justin,
Is that a connection there?
I believe. Sarah says the lawsuit from the Mass Attorney General's office was over its handling of the public benefits charge. She said it might be a good reference.
Okay. I will take a look at that, definitely.
And Brian does work with Justin.
Okay. So let me I want to look that up. Mass AG public benefits charge. And then we'll pass that because we're going to add links like that onto our website as well. And it's, we're not making a dime from this. I'm actually spending on it, but we're hoping to be able to use many hands to do light lifting, so to speak. There's no such thing as a free attorney to take on a case like this because it's just so there's a mass undertaking, right? It's hours and hours, and it's not going to a small claims court. This is going to the Connecticut High Court or the Connecticut Supreme Court is where this will end up going. So there takes some heavy lifting that's involved there, and I did pass that by my attorney as far as those expenditures, and he actually thought that the numbers were a little light.
A little light there.
He's like,
Wow.
listen, that's, there's going to take a lot of digging in this, a lot of resources. But, I mean, ultimately, I plan on participating with this attorney. Rich, I know you do, Rob. So any of our agreements or conversations that come of it, we want to be able to review the angle, so to speak, and the argument with him to make sure that we're not missing something. And then also invite other residents or citizens in on the effort as well for participation purposes.
I'm asking Sarah to provide a link. I'm not finding it, but it's hard to try to stay engaged in the live and do this Googling at the same time. I don't know if Sarah, if you have that up in front of you right now, could you cut and paste it into the chat, please? I see all this 2024 BOD versus the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Massachusetts law about public benefits, emergency assistance, state agencies and opinions.
The other thing is I would like to be able to go live on this subject with call-ins once we get the web page up, just for people to share voice their assessments and opinions on the matter as well. Look, the more noise you make, like I said, the court of public opinion does hold a heavy weight, and when the public starts bearing down its
tenacity.
Yeah, it's just unease with what's going on. It rings loud.
Well, I mean, you got to remember, you've got a handful of people sitting in the state capitol, governing a body of millions of people. You don't want those people to get pissed at you. Trust me.
Well, no. The problem is it's just always been a silent majority, and that has been it. And it's through no fault of their own. Right? Yeah, like I said, if you got a full-time job, you got family that you're raising, homes you're trying to build and upkeep and what have you, it makes it damn near impossible to be able to go through these measures.
Right.
Yeah.
And to keep up with everything that they're passing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the legal side of it. And just think about us now. We're all holding down full-time jobs. We've taken on this 56+1 project. We're studying to do our Thursday night recordings. Now we've got this legal battle ahead of us. Plus, we're taking care of homes and our social obligations and everything else. So, it would be easy for us to just sit back and not do anything and throw that occasional bitch out on Facebook and be done with it. But
what does it do?
That's exactly right. And
it makes you bitch more.
Yeah. Well, and that's just where we were at. We were just like, we were sick.
I think we were at the point to where like, man, when's somebody going to do something, and then we just got so fucking fed up. We just said, screw it. We're going to do it. You know what?
Yeah.
Let's just throw it in there.
Okay.
What's the worst that comes out of it? We get an education.
Thank you, Sarah. She said she just sent the 5 pages of legal action in the case with Eversource, so it's still open.
It's still open. Okay, yeah. I was
cool. Thank you.
Ask if there is any resolve to it, because if it's any kind of precedence up north, then it'd be good to have that arrow in the quiver.
So I wouldn't personally trust the AG taking a case away from the people. I wouldn't trust that, because there's collaboration there.
Yeah.
Therein lies self-interest.
We have to watch him speak this evening.
Isn't the AG appointed by the governor?
Right.
Yeah.
And that was another reason why it was so hard to get a law firm. When I posed the question back to that judge, well, if you're agreeing with it and you think it's smart, why is nobody jumping on it? And he goes, well, the hurdle's not going to be in the law. Hurdle's going to be finding somebody without conflicted interest in that law, meaning a firm big enough to take this case on and willing to take this case on is probably already tied up into either Eversource or the state already. So when you have that, you've got a conflict of interest. And I can't remember if it was Rob or Rich, but I agree. I mean, shouldn't you just be there to fight the law?
Yeah,
the law is the law.
Yeah, we had the conversation, and I said, why is there disparities in this at all? The law is the law. It's not left. It's not right. It's it's not right in talking about in political sense. It's what is right.
Right.
Correct.
That's what it is. Either you stand on that or you don't. You're clearly choosing.
I don't see how you could have anybody
partisan views
in a public office that doesn't stand on the law. It just doesn't make sense to me. So
right.
Oh, they stand on it and they use it to clean their feet.
Yeah. They make everybody else abide by it.
So I did get into one of those with my congressman, and on one of the battles, he was like, "Well, that's the law, Eric." And when he shared with the law, I said, "Okay, touche. I agree." Now that he cited it, and I looked it up, and then I brought up another thing against him, and he kept ignoring it. And I'm like, Connor, I'm like, why are you ignoring this? And he was like, well, I've just been real busy, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes, you have to take that up with so-and-so. I said, but you're my representation. So-and-so isn't my representation. They're the ones I'm combating against. I said, on the last argument, Connor, I subsided. I digressed because you brought it up, and I said, okay, I agree, it's the law. This is the law, too. But he didn't want to take the battle on. So, yes, that does happen, and it shouldn't.
Right.
Either, like you said, and I agree wholeheartedly, it's either the law is the law or it's not. And you're either going to side with it or you're not. And you have to side with it as a congressman until you change it.
That's true. Absolutely.
But yeah.
All right.
So-
Anything else you guys want to add before we kind of wrap this up? And good.
I'm good.
To anybody that
All right.
may catch this in their passings or whatever, 56plus1.com. Check us out on Facebook. Check out the podcast, 56plus1. Stop in.
Yeah.
Vote.
We appreciate you guys checking us out and staying with us while we had this little session. But we've got some work to do, and we will come back. We'll put a video out, and I'll read the final draft of the letter that I'm going to send off to the utility company. But we appreciate y'all. Thanks for stopping in.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Have a good night.